For a lot of people, this has been what we've been waiting for. Bay State Esports going up against the Northwood Esports squad. Number 1 versus number 2. And all of the drama that started at the beginning of the year, now it's time for us to settle it all on a best of 5 map set here in one of the final weeks of the CCL regular season. I don't even know what else to say, because I think this match will likely speak for itself.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're thinking about all 8 of these players that are about to be loading inside this lobby, it almost feels like a glorified Challengers 8 lobby at this point now. And honestly, I love to be able to see it. I mean, say what you will, whatever kind of thought process you have behind seeing these players inside the CCL, I am here for it. It puts it on the map, man. This one is going to blow the roof off. We've waited so long and since the beginning of the 2022 season to see these two teams stack up against each other, and we'll finally have the score settled who is the number one team heading into playoffs.
Well, as you'd expect with the head-to-head coming forward, both teams undefeated. And largely both teams... No way, no, surely not. Only one search loss for Northwood. And I remember everyone, when we watched that search loss happen, like, oh, they're totally busted, they're not good. Oh, they're still very good. It was a bit unexpected, though. It was to Master. Happened about a week or two before spring break had started, and there's not much else to see here, Kate. Let's go ahead and just send it into the rosters themselves. Both teams perfect. They've been smoking everyone that they play so far, including teams here in the top cut. As you mentioned, only one map loss, so what else is there really to say? But there's so much to be said about the individual rosters. Obviously, the player number 1 on your list is Silly. A lot of controversy because he'd won a world championship, but the thing about it, and I have to say this before I let you go into this, Andy.
Okay.
Silly's year this year so far through Challengers has been extremely poor compared to expectations, except for last weekend. That was the one moment where it was like, all right, Silly's back. And that was as a pickup, by the way, into a core group of 3.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind you that, Silly was a pickup into that Strike X roster, and that's all off of because Hamza was filling for the Bear Claw Esports roster. That's Noisy & Co. after Samueli ended up going to fill for the infamous Esports roster, formerly 18 Crack. There's so many things that just kind of, it was weird about the entirety of the Minnesota Challengers Open, but I mean, look, Silly's going to be at the Pro-Am, and other people aren't. And speaking of the rest of the roster, I mean, you have longtime family members and teammates of Rex and Phantoms playing together. How about their impressive record going through Challengers Elite, qualifying for every single one of them that they have ever been around?
Yep.
And rounding out, of course, is Druxy, something that we haven't seen inside of the Challengers scene, I believe, since the Modern Warfare year. Doesn't mean that they are still weak on the sticks by any stretch of the imagination.
It's a good team.
Solid roster.
Yeah, not too many better out there, but I say that with only a bit of caution because of the team they're about to play up against. You, of course, recognize Fame and Radio from their time at Ottawa last year, but Bink and Infinite now in the mix with them. And Infinite was part of that Team Smog squad that just came out top 16 at Minnesota. Very impressive to fare from him. And then I would say for Bink, that Alpha Esports squad surprised a lot of teams. In fact, they would get through a number of major opponents on the way to a top 8 finish. So just as much success as you kind of saw from Silly qualifying for the Pro-Am, you've got a handful of players right here that were very close to doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, what's really funny is that, not to continue to always talk about what happened at the Minnesota Open, but I mean, Bink, what he was teaming with, like, Gus 5, Volans, Wiz. I mean, you want to talk about a powerhouse for Search and Destroy. Good lord, my arm hairs are standing up just thinking about how strong a Search and Destroy team that truly was for the Minnesota Open. But I mean, even still, this entire team from top to bottom just screams how strong of a background of Search and Destroy that they truly have. And that could honestly pay dividends. I know that everybody's thinking, like, oh, proper, they have that Search and Destroy loss. They're not perfect across Search and Destroy. Look, it is what it is at the end of the day. But regardless of the matter, this team, just like what we were talking about for the Bulldogs out of Bay State, are just as nasty. They have just as many accomplishments outside of the world title that Silly does have for themselves. And it's one of those things that is going to continue to frame up for us here, Alan, that this is going to be an absolute slobber knocker.
Let's get to the maps, because I know both teams are rearing and ready to go for map number 1. So we'll just kind of take a brief look at it and then jump into the map. It'll be Berlin Hardpoint, Desert Siege, Search, Gavudu Control to kick us off for our first 3 in a series that, Well, I know you, Proper, you're like the 9:30 second pot of coffee type guy. Everybody out there may need to consider some sort of a caffeine boost because I think the expectations here, and I hate this. I hate when we do this on broadcast. I absolutely hate it. But this series should go all the way to 5. Both of these two teams very evenly matched on the individuals. And the thing about it is, this is not the same kind of identity of like the Ottawa from last year when you're looking at Northwood or Bay State, where not only are they competing in the CCL together, but they're also playing in challengers together. That's not the case. So yeah. It will kind of feel like a pickup game in certain ways, I think, for both of these teams compared to what they do on a regular weekend basis with their normal teams for challengers. So, man, this could be fun, bud. I'm pumped about this game.
Dude, it's all about just the experience that everybody has. All 8 players in these lobbies, I swear, have a Chad backpack of experience when it comes down to playing Call of Duty through multiple years and titles. It's just about turning that into map wins. This is going to be the biggest test that both these teams have had all year long. Bragging rights to boot. Who is going to be the #1 team, not only in the Northeast region, but also heading into playoffs as a whole, because there's going to be no discretion about it for top 25 power ranking committee aside. Who's going to be the #1 team? Whoever wins this best of 5 series. Let's go.
Let's get out to do it. In the blue and the red, it's the Bay State Bulldogs. In the white and blue, it'll be the Northwood Timberwolves. And straight into the opening hard point we go. Infinite locking down the side door. Fame has given away his position to touch, and even trades come through. Druxy on the way in, denied, as Bink has the final word, and it's Northwood to hold their favored position over the first hard point.
Starting off on the favorite side, it should more often than not guarantee you some solid hardpoint time, but it's Dylan Rex and his cousin Timmy Phantoms that works their way back in. We'll get the returning gunfights. 20 seconds is good time. Keep in mind you here on P1, but you also have Silly. Keep in mind for the rotational gunfights as well.
Yeah, that's kind of a miscue there for Northwood. It's a clean hold on the initial break attempt, but then the aggressive zone forward in the train station missed a couple of key areas, so it actually is going to be Bay State who win the opening hardpoint off their second break attempt. Not often you can say those words back-to-back. But as we look at the rotation towards the second, Druxy lucky to be alive, but does get wallbanged eventually. Trade from Silly is good. Around the back, though, is big. Should be a free kill, and it is. So Northwood, even though they're a bit amiss on their second hold through the first hardpoint, good on their initial break here at Mail.
Yeah, solid break as well. I mean, in Northwood, look, you needed to be able to find that break because Bay State were finding a lot of value on rotational gunfights. They should have initially rocked down all of that second corridor plus that B lane. So now you're messing with high ground positioning here from Bing, just trying to finesse their life. Last few bullets from the Rat Pistol will clean up Druxy, and that will not necessarily guarantee the last little bit of the scrap time. As you can see, all of Bay State still spawning in the back of the warehouse.
Ink on 4, has an MP40 to work with to try to get to these streaks, finds a bit of salvation inside the hard point, steps away, and actually just bashes through a wall to step away. There's number 5, and that's a clean wipe coming through. Now it's down to, can you read where these spawns are coming from? And I think it's caught looking through the windows. So no streaks there. The lead will be maintained, but only marginally so, as Northwood will default to giving away the back 5 seconds in favor of setting up the fire. But they're so worried about anchoring the spawns that they're not actually in the hard point nor contesting fire itself, but the long-range ARs are stepping up nicely. Fame will to keep safe the docks for a time, and that should lead to the Timberwolves getting into the hard point, and so it will be.
It was necessary, though, to not get inside of that initial time because you had 2 players watching the B lane, and then you also had Gradial just zoning away outside a statue. That cut down 2 players trying to threaten to get inside of fire, but the issue off of these respawns is that nobody is looking to where Bay State is coming from. They have the office spawns, and they're flooding in through the front.
And you can make safe the front all you want, keep safe the spawns, but you got to remember that the easy hit off of the second respawn would be coming through those front doors. And once again, Bay State just kind of walked through on their second break attempt because of missed angles by Northwood, but still holding out of the spawns. They get the numbers to retake quickly, much better than what they were able to do in the first hard point, and that will lead to them still finding an advantage after 3. But now it's kind of the shoes on the opposite foot here, as Northwood will have to give their first convincing look at a break as we head over towards the 4th hill.
Of these closer spawns do Bay State for the time being, excuse me, but you can see the positioning specifically from Bink is already inside of that dock house. And Infinite's going to catch Rex looking, thought that one player is going to be coming out from the B bomb site hut, but isn't going to be the case. Now you got Bink in towards the back. That's a great read coming out from Phantoms, who locks down 2, and that should at least guarantee the front side of this hardpoint for the time being, but still, you have Timberwolf players trying to threaten it.
Uncharacteristically missed route there as Rex is waiting through mailroom. We kind of saw it from his POV. Silly was watching the exact same thing, so what looked to be a very convincing zone around the 4th hill turns into a missed route, and Northwood now have spawns to try to break. with 20 seconds still to play for. Kills have not been convincing as of yet, and as Infinite gets traded, that mantra will hold true, likely through the last part of this fight as well. Northwood, maybe an opportunity to get the back 10 seconds or so if you can find this kill on a Druxy, but more importantly, the biggest thing here for Bay State is they're looking to set up for 5, and now they've missed a route. It's Radio all the way through the back that's looking to make a mess of fire.
My man is getting his money's worth for Vanguard.
Yeah, for real.
He is literally rotating through the entirety of the map. Is going to find some timing towards the back and gets a squad spawn from Infinite as well. But the issue still sets itself up that you have Bulldog members inside of top male. They have to finesse their life for a little while longer. Most importantly, Druxy cannot give up this position for free.
Oh, but he doesn't win the gunfight versus Fame. Gonna let the gunfight speak for itself because Druxy had a really good look at it, but Fame puts him down with the automaton. So 106.90, Bink now on 5 all of a sudden. And as Infinite gets kind of a sound cue or maybe just a call out that players are on the back, I thought he was going to try to chase down Rex, but instead tries to hit a pinch on the 5th hard point. This will essentially give away the preferred spawns for 1, but at least allows you an opportunity maybe to get some significant control over the train platform. Rex on 3 of his own. Good read onto Fame, but it's mutual information, which Fame is able to win. And as the scrap time fades away on our final hill, we'll look at about a 12-point game as we get into our second set of rotations.
This really feels like it's the biggest lead that we have seen so far in this game. We've been trading blow for blow in the first set of hardpoints so far. A lot of players just threatening to get closer towards streak. Even Bink found themselves on a 5 heading in towards this second set of hardpoints. But it's Bay State that are playing with the closer spawns. They'll be in for the initial setup. Druxy is going to confirm the kill on an Infamous. It is a clean feed coming through for the Bulldogs.
Mid-map control now for Rex. But once again, make sure you keep safe. The very traditional and most easily read hit, and yeah, BSB is going to be able to do that no problem. Last hits through. Infinite in the window. Keeps things neutral for now. 20 seconds. You don't want to give this away for free, but once again, you're kind of still spawning train yard side. You need to get over to mailroom. Very crucial moment of this map coming through in this next 20 seconds or so. Scrap time will be fought for and won by Northwood, but can you get over to mailroom here? Druxy's able to find the first elimination, creating a bit of presence over towards the second floor. And as Radio looks to kind of sneak his way forward, he gets to the 3rd floor without anyone ever seeing him. So, yeah, very key here for Northwood. They turn this from scrap into initial, and all of a sudden, we could be looking at a lead swap, chasing down the kills as Radio, and that'll be good for 3 in a row. Northwood back in the lead.
Northwood absolutely collect off of Bay State, just keeping all of their heads on a swivel because you had a lot of offset spawns that were coming through. Fame actually spawned inside of P3, essentially. Found at least 1 kill in front of the B hut, and that actually forced 2 players for Bay State just to slow up and just assume that more players were coming over there. And that allowed Chris to find themselves on 4 in a row, finessing for potentially more inside the B hut. They won't be able to walk away with much of anything, but the space has been provided for Northwood to contest once again.
Oh, looking good. Oh, but Bink does get turned aside. Just holding down the trigger as Phantoms. That'll be enough to retake. And again, I don't know about you watching March Madness and the National Championship last year. I kind of wish we had like a little graphic that could pop up to say like lead swaps, biggest lead so far. That'd be sick. Get me on the horn with Activision Blizzard because this lead swap tally would be high. It's been back and forth nonstop. No advantages anywhere for either team at the moment as we get over towards fire. Maybe the first one could occur right here for the Bulldogs. Hit coming from the low ground. Radio looking to sneak through the windows. Dylan trying to respond to it, but is unable to. So now there's numbers in the back. Northwood going to block the spawns, look for their break attempt, and it's Bink to find the opener. Phantoms desperately trying to hold on to the front doors, but is unsuccessful, leaving Druxy to have to wait for help before he can commit.
Fantastic coordination coming through. Infinite was just waiting for the 2 players to hit through the front from Northwood. They collect on those 2 kills, and then Infinite pushes in towards the crane, blocks the spawns. There was nobody watching that B lane. They know that Bay State are spawning in close towards office, and they find all the kills necessary to battle over the scrap time. You got to get a player on this hard point. This would be a pretty nice lead holding on to yourself before you have to rotate through the entirety of the map.
Oh, and the only player that was looking to finesse for the scrap time in Rex is denied instantly. So an opportunity here for Northwood to get across the map and maybe open up some space, but still he's in a position to deny most of these exits. Free kill onto Infinite. Should be. Could be. Barely is. But the thing about this is the route that was trying to be ran through for the Timberwolves is actually successful. They get around the back. Radial and Fame are here. They watch Silly spawn up to their left, and that should be the last player for the Bulldogs to spawn in. Or is it? Rex spawns in as well. Questionable for sure. But how about it? Bulldogs get blessed. And with that, it's Bay State who hold on to the hard point.
Silly is just finessing their life for such a long time over here by the platform. It's on to, 24 and 21, sure. But so long as Silly is just playing their life here, more often than not, Northwood have to contest this. It feels like Silly is just perpetually stunned. And for some reason, Infinite doesn't even look over here. The help is coming from behind. That's going to be thanks to Phantoms. Runs out of bullets, goes to the wrap pistol. At least Bink takes them down. But you still have to deal with Rex. These close spawns just fully in effect as Bay State cross over the 200-point threshold.
Difficult moments still ahead. The importance of maybe being able to earn this glide bomb could maybe tilt the favors. 4 in a row for Bink. Still a lot of work to be done, though, here before you can even consider getting to the 7th. Oh, big double for Infinite up top. That will put down any potential hit from the Bulldogs quickly towards 5. Now an opportunity for Northwood. Getting into the hard point, but they lose track of Rex, who gets the kill, and the player trying to accrue time. And then gets away for a moment, but it's Fame who rocks into both him and Druxy together. Another double. Radial at the same moment trying to play around the back. An advantage starts to kind of occur here for Northwood as the pinch is successful, and they bring this to within 10 points.
Bringing in within 10 points, they had top male control, but the issue going forward is that Bay State are messing with these upper courtyard spawns, and so long as Radial's still finessing their life over here, Bay State can just commit towards one player. That's going to be Rex that finally deals with that last flanking player. The other 3 players were clearing away the inside of time, and now it's Bay State that are pushing that line of scrimmage so much further forward. Fame finds 1 plus a teammate, but it's just simply not going to be good enough. Bay State have numbers as they're threatening to close out the game ahead of the 3rd set.
And what an important 4 kills that is for Druxy. A double on the point, and the other 2 before that was actually to open the point in the first place. Does get turned aside. And wait a second. Look at number 8. Infinite's trying to get around the back. With the spawns for the Bulldogs being good, they're not going to expect Infinite from the backside, but Silly still picks that up. Spidey's sense definitely tingling. Now the last hit for Northwood has to come through the front. Stuns in the mix, but it doesn't deter Phantoms. A double for him. The last contested in Fame gets put down. One more chance to touch for Infinite, but they're going to spam the doorways. And no, he's not going to be able to touch. Bink will shortly fall after, and it's the number 1 team in the CCL, Bay State, surviving through the first map.
As Silly was able to find that kill, but it's all thanks to Druxy that ends up getting that P3 spawn to at least see that you ended up having Infinite working their way around the back. If that last player does not get checked of Infinite, that pinch could be successful, and we could be talking about the rotation potentially going in towards P2. All of that aside, it will end up being Bay State with a W here on map number 1. Synergy aside, if there is anything to really speak of, you have to be able to look at what the ARs in tandem were working off of one another. Where Silly was playing off of a very long angle, Phantoms was at least overwatching one of the submachine guns, if not 2, when they were in possession of the time. That's just fundamental hardpoint within a nutshell. Going even more so than that, the 2 SMGs that were finessing not only for time when they were holding the setups for Bay State, you also had Rex that was just constantly just berating for scrap time, and it always felt like that Northwood were just lacking numbers when they were trying to work their way across the map from 3 all the way to 4 to break inside of spawns very quickly. For initial time, they were just lacking numbers because Rex was finding a lot of success at just keeping a lot of the Timberwolf players at bay before they could actually work their way across the map.
Wow, what a good first map that was, though. And Druxy really, I'll give it to him. You know, I think he's obviously if you were to pick a weakness on this Bay State Esports squad, it would come. I think everyone would point at Druxy first and foremost. Zeus largely, and you were correct, by the way, the last time we had really seen him give a go at challengers, it was during the Modern Warfare year. It wasn't a bad year for him either. But a slower start from him in the get-go, but he put together 8 final kills that were huge difference makers to get him back not just to 20 and 25, but also to stop any presence through P5 and also win the rotation to the first hill. If he doesn't find those kills, Northwood very well may flip that map around and do exactly what Bay State just did to them. So tight affair from start to finish, even hill time pretty much for everybody except for Radial, who was the route man all day long. And now we get into a search and destroy conversation around Desert Siege. And the interesting thing about this map, I would say, for both of these 2 teams, is I think it's going to promote both of them to want to play aggressive into the Mid-Palace University area. But at the same rate, you've got really good sniper potential on both sides. So I'll be really curious to see where exactly is the hotspot for this opening round or 2.
That's exactly what I was going to be bringing up, is who is going to end up bringing out that Car 98K, who's going to constantly find value with it, and if you don't find continuous value with it, are you going to put it away and try to almost dive your way into whatever bag of tricks that you truly have? Again, search and destroy between all 8 players inside this lobby, Alan, is at an all-time high. We know that most of the time when these players are at least playing late at night, it's not all spent on ranked play. They're playing a lot of Challengers 8s, which again, this lobby truly does feel like, but they're playing a lot of Search and Destroy. And in a game like Vanguard, to be able to at least switch that one player up, whether it is the boomstick, whether it is your instigating SMG player inside of University, or to find some nice timing inside of that B bomb site, all of these little nuances can absolutely come to play versus another team that might not be as prepared. It'll be quite telling to see what these two teams will truly look like, not only in Search and Destroy, but on such a big map like Desert Siege.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a really fun affair, and I really am curious to see if it's going to be more stack presence, kind of getting aggressive, taking over the mid pivot point in University, or is it going to be kind of delaying the mid map and playing off of the extremities a little bit more often? I don't know. I'm curious. Will it be more of a containment defense or more of a taking away space defense? Man, this is going to be a really fun one. And the coolest thing about this is, as much as we have seen Northwood a handful of times on stream so far throughout the year, this is, I would say, arguably the best match that they've had. I mean, that's obviously it's the facts, but I mean, like, by like a long shot too. Like, we had expectations of what would they may be able to do, like, versus a team like Davenport or Michigan. I want to say the Rutgers match was on stream, but really nobody has come close to really touching this Northwood team yet. So all the things that we may have seen from before, like kind of what I'm getting at here, you may as well just throw those out the window, because they really were not tested in any regard when we expected them to be, which was obviously good news, getting them up to number 2 in the rankings pretty confidently. But as you start to deal with a team that has now set the tone, giving you your first hardpoint loss, and can outgun you, does that change how you want to play today? I don't know. I'm curious.
You almost have to feel like that more lockdown, methodical style might actually be more offered when you're thinking about Bay State. I mean, it could be the wrench in the system that they might be looking for, or that Northwood rather have to be on the lookout for, given the simple fact that, as you were just pointing out, not a whole lot of pushback for these two teams so far until this one exact moment. Again, I know proper, they lost to Search and Destroy, did Northwood. I don't care. There's not been a whole lot of a contest when it comes down to these teams through the regular season so far. And to go back to my original point, that lockdown is offered for Bay State because this is Dylan Rex Unchained. Obviously has a lot of time and experience playing SMGs, even the Maddox going back to Black Ops 4 being much more in your face, but all year long, and even towards the tail end, and for the majority of Cold War, keep in mind you, was playing mostly AR and duo to Phantoms. And that could also be something that we could see from Bay State, whether it's not necessarily a sniper, but you have that flexibility coming through from an AR duo standpoint of both Rex and Phantoms that could lock down a lot of these positionings. That could be almost more of a push and pull moment coming through from what they have experienced so far in this game through the Challengers year.
Yeah, I would expect that Silly will be the player running that second AR, by the way, for what it's worth. I think that's why you're. But
I'm saying 3
Rex
ARs,
forward.
you could end up seeing them play with, like.
Yeah, I think it just would depend on if there were to be a sniper rifle, who would pick it up.
Yeah.
Because I know Druxy's done it in the past. I know Silly feels confident enough to pick it up at times. So we'll see.
Question marks.
It's all curious. It's all curious. But I say this all the time, and I think there's more value into just saying the words than it may seem. But coming out and being able to set the tempo and pace in this map is going to be super crucial, just due to, like, and I'll be more specific here when I mean, like, where exactly are you trying to set that tempo and pace? Is it largely going to be through mid-map? Is it going to be showing force towards the outsides? We'll have to see. At least we're going to get an answer initially for Bay State. Double stack inside of University. 2 players kind of feeling things out long. One of them is Rex, who does see the top side of Bink, but catches him through a brick. And that will not be good enough for a first blood, just a first hit marker.
So presence being shown down here for a very fast playing at B. Infinite does have some help, and yeah, Phantoms will end up see it, will deny it. Now it comes down to Radio to try to pick things up. Does find one, but doesn't expect Silly to come around the back.
Yeah, this is problematic. Bink and Fame were so worried about trying to isolate Phantoms that they did not actually watch over their teammate trying to sneak onto the bomb site. But it gets to a 2v2. Trades do come out. And Druxy with an SMG is trying to see through the pallet boarding on the window. And he does catch Fame, but not cleanly. And watch out, Bink is behind you, and Bink will find him wide open. 2v3 confirmed. Northwood take the opening attack.
Yeah, it was overall just really well played out from the last two alive. When you're thinking about it from Fame and Bink's position, they were just stacked inside of the small room just outside of this truck area. And when you had Fame at least able to shut down any sort of flank potential, and then also catching players off guard, trying to at least try to re-wrap through the middle of the map to get behind the entirety of the play there at B, finding both Silly and then, again, catching Druxy while they were trying to at least chase that last kill on a Fame, who was trying to commit towards the bomb plant to extend the round. So, nice 2v3 coming out. Rex still with the sniper rifle is going to barely see Bink, just a pixel through that little itty bit of train. Let's back off for now.
Do you continue to try to feel this out, missing that opening operation, though? That's the question. And Rex says, yeah, we're going to give this another go. Druxy cooks up a nade. It is actually really well cooked up for Radial, but the problem is it does not connect, and Radial will tally first blood. So defensively now, both teams showcasing the importance of them wanting to get control over University. And Radial tries to just 420 YOLO yeet it out. Not going to do too much with that position. Now all of a sudden there's an opportunity for 2v4 to come through. They know Fame is on the outside. The shot's though not clean. Pistol in hand, it still works. As Silly will look to get a regen, a reload, and a reposition. Maybe doesn't need the whole reload. Gets a second, no problem. Has a read on where Bink is positioned. If this stun connects, Bink is in trouble! Dude. And it's a 1v3!
Over here, sitting here, gassing up the 2v3. How about a 1v3 out from Silly? I was in the same boat. I thought he was going to favor towards the reload of the automaton. Just quick reload. Comes through with the pistol. Hits it out from the top of the staircase towards University. And then, yeah, stop indeed, Silly. Ain't nobody denying you are nasty on the sticks for sure. Finds themselves on 4. Full-on ace out from the veteran in the lobby. My heavens. How do you bounce back from that? Well, you're going to have to find a way. The way that Infinite's posted up close towards University, expecting for a hot challenge to come out from the staircase. You got 3 players locking down over by Train defensively for Bay.
This time the Bulldogs not getting overly aggressive into University. Kind of feeling things out. Big gap over towards B. At least at the moment, but for Northwood, it's a lot of just patience. See if you can maybe bait somebody onto the site. First stun for Infinite does not connect as Fame is able to get first blood over towards A. Oh, timing from Druxy. Absolutely perfect. Counters the first blood on the opposite side of the map, essentially, and now turns this to a very level playing field 3v3.
And immediately swaps that into top University control. Bomb's going to be collected here by Radial, and they're thinking about just backing back off of this. Bink hops up. Druxy finds yet another in the round, but can't get out with their live 2v2.
Although that clearance of the mid-University will allow an opportunity to get a free plant, as Bay State knows they kind of have to avoid that position or clear it out, one of the two. Rex with a stun. Nothing there. He does get caught. Fame on the outside of the train yard. No problem. Radial off angle. Denies the opportunity for any more shenanigans or clutches to come through. Northwood get back up by 1.
So impressive timing that came through. I mean, Druxy really gave all of the Bulldogs a solid look at potentially getting that entirety of the round. Found the first of the bomb carrier of Infinite, that immediately swaps out to find one inside a top University. But the issue of that was that the other 2 players out from Bay State Esports were just in a more isolated position. One top tower, the other one all the way on the outskirts over by the sand dunes. And nobody in an immediate position to at least find that trade or look over the play that Druxy was trying to collect for themselves. So another offense. Rex still playing with the sniper rifle. 0-3 so far. Video will find first blood, though. Forcing out the hand is Phantoms that finds 2.
Yeah, that's a great double from Phantoms. Essentially single-handedly putting presence towards the B site. Radial's committed, by the way, to get on towards B. And Phantoms has seen this, by the way. But he's not in a position to do too much, so he'll just kind of let that exist and now play for a 3v2 post-plant defense. Silly, AR in hand, doesn't want to stay too close to this bomb site, and instead just allows Bink to get baited on into Phantom's line of sight, leaving it all to Radial, and, well, not going to get the 1v3 off the ground. So good start from him, or rather, I should say, for Bay State, locking down the 3v2 and keeping us locked up.
Yeah, again, that is mostly just coming down from Phantoms. It was able to find 2 players. One was trying to at least chase for the challenge. One at least was looking for at least a trade, if not try to overwhelm Phantoms on that angle. But that is just how good that specific angle is, all the way by the sand dunes. Has Rex sniping over by the train, the broken down train, and then you also have just Phantoms, who has been a mainstay AR through many different Call of Duties at this point, just can beam you at range. 4 players deep here for Northwood, trying to assault this A bomb aggressively.
Radio for the first, but immediately countered. But the bomb is still going to get planted here. We get in the clearance through the defensive side of A. And now Infinite gets a look at Druxy. Druxy will allow nothing further. Flanks on both sides largely coming out. Phantoms being the first notable one as he's going to try to get up top with an AR. Does not see Bink immediately underneath him, at least not initially, but that's a much cleaner look for sure. But the problem about all of this retake from the back for Bay State is the fact that you've got now post-plant defenders up on University and deep in towards your spawn. But Radio, wait a second, he's actually committed down low. He's able to find the first, but it's the pistol that gets turned up for Druxy to deny any further. And that'll be enough time for defuse and back-to-back rounds for Bay State.
Yeah, it would have been a hell of a read coming out from Radio, able to find at least that first and then immediately go look at the bomb, which was planted. It was a great attack when you're thinking about it, just a very heavy hit over towards the broken down train to be able to get that quick plant over at A. It's almost like something that you would see going over towards the B bomb site, but they completely flip it, get all of that lane control, get up close inside University, but the retake was just too clean. Out from Bay State, just ringing on just a little bit too true as the AR players are at a combined 11-6. Silly at 6-3, Phantoms at 5-3 respectfully. Phantoms finds themselves on a 4, trading blow for blow so far in these round counts. Phantoms finds first blood again, just absolute beams across the sand dune side.
Bomb's going to be committed. This is a dangerous plant, but Phantom seems to think he can help out enough, and, well, that long-range gunfight will definitely assist. Infinite also tagged, but he had cooked up a nade. That'll take care of Druxy on the site itself. But Silly moving on towards the top side of the B platform. Takes down one. Wait a second. Has not seen Radial. But it doesn't make a difference. There's enough help from behind. I'm not sure who tallied that last kill, but someone was in his back pocket for a second there.
Was like that feeling at a carnival. Is like, is someone trying to pickpocket my wallet over here? And Phantom's just like, yeah, no, Silly, I got you. Don't worry. Taking him down. Phantoms finds 3 in that round. Put him on 7. And, yeah. Don't worry, Silly. We're calming down over here. 8-3. Glide Bomb has been put in the back pocket now of Phantoms, and you have to feel that that is the ace up the sleeve for Bay State to end this in the next few rounds. Phantoms is undeniable across the sand dune side.
Yeah, that's for sure. Can you maybe bait out this glide bomb in a way, though? That's going to be an eventual question that Northwood would have to have a response to. But the problem is you've lost first blood, and Phantoms really is just indomitable over here. Even gets a really good look at where Bink is positioned. Watches him, I imagine, cross from left to right. But knowing that the bomb is now down, this provides a headache and a half for Northwood. Bink's going to have to win a gunfight. And the thing about it is you really can't challenge this position at B Dunes anymore, in my mind. But they're still going to try to. Yeah, it's once you lose that initial gunfight, you have to give it up. And if you're not going to try to team shot it off the rip, at this point, you can't even challenge Phantoms anymore at this range. He's just too clean with it.
I feel like that should have been a point that should have been brought up across all of Northwood a few rounds ago, Alan. Be quite candid with you. That Phantoms over by that beam dune side is just beaming. The B on the bomb site stands for beams for Phantoms, apparently. It's just,
apparently, yeah.
Yeah, it's just 11-3 on a 10. Still has that glide bomb in their back pocket. Keep in mind you for an offensive round. I mean, this is where things can get absolutely filthy. They're playing for the A bomb plant. Phantoms throws a couple shots. That's going to be a cross over towards Infinite over by the half wall. But Northwood have expected this, knowing that the bomb plant should be going over at A, having a streak in the back pocket for Phantoms.
The glide bomb's just going to allow him a chance to get this free plant at A, and Infinite actually cannot sneak into safety long enough to actually allow himself to keep it life. Oh, boy. Team shots galore, left, right, and center. Fame, 1v4. For some reason, we're still not getting his perspective in a 1v clutch situation, but I don't know if it's going to make much of a difference here. Gets taken down, and Bay State will clean up the search and destroy 6-2. And what I thought was going to be a really tight series is only one map away from Bay State really cementing their position as the best team in the CCL.
It was competitive in the Berlin hardpoint, Allen, but still, nevertheless, I mean, look at Phantoms go across the Bean Dune side, and even more so than that, when they threw those shots over towards Infinite, they pushed them all the way back. They then rotated over to help the play happen over towards A. Just Farai is one player, top University, hauls in the glide soon before that, and it's just finds themselves, what was that, a 13-14 streak? I don't know. I lost count after 8, to be quite honest here.
You don't have to count past 7, honestly, if you don't want to.
You don't have to, but it's still impressive that, again, that is something that you almost, I mean, you and I come to expect that Phantoms can absolutely do ever since really seeing them come to life within the amateur scene, and even more so than that, when we were screaming for Paris Legion to play them during the Modern Warfare year, what we've been seeing for the past 2 years out of Phantoms, you almost have to expect them to do something like that. If you give them a single inch across the dune area, you don't double challenge them, you give them all of those 1v1 gunfights at range, they'll beam you.
Yep, that much we can at least confidently say for sure. Man, and we will see what the streak was, by the way, right here on the scoreboard.
Oh, bless. Oh,
Final
13,
score was 13 kills in a row. Jeez. That's crazy, man. Oh, there's nothing else to say. That's the scoreboard. 1,600 damage. Like, bruh. He averaged 2 kills per round, dude. 200 damage per round he averaged.
I'm mind blown. I mean, what you can see on the opposite side of the spectrum between Infinite and Bink, right? I mean, those are two of the opposite ARs that we're trying to at least take those very long-range gunfights versus Phantoms, and we're losing them continuously. And that always left Fame or Radial in 1v odd clutch situations, 2v too many, keep in mind you.
Yeah, fair.
And it's just something that shouldn't exist. I mean, at that point, you know that Phantom's is going to continue to play that same sand dune head glitch. Either double chow, try to play for the set nade, or just don't challenge him at all and just try to work around it on the opposite side of the map.
And here's, before we go to break, I just have to point this out for all you big brainers out here. This is why you can tell that this lobby is being, I would say, arguably for Northwood, being treated more like like an 8s lobby, as you had mentioned. Again, I don't want to make that come off with like super negative connotation, but comparing what we saw from Fame and Radial right here to what they would have done last year with a team that they were playing in Challengers, you would have seen them make the call of, don't take those fights anymore, let's work something different in the playbook. But even in that last round, individual challenges of, oh, Phantoms is over here, I'll go try to fight him. He got me too. Well, I'll go try to fight him.
Your turn, yeah.
Yeah, you can't be doing that at this level, and I think that's going to be a hard lesson learned there for Northwood, especially looking forward to the rest of the series, which we'll get more of after we get back from the break. Going to be the Control, Kavuto, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, coming up after the break, so don't go too far. Bay State, Northwood, number 1, number 2, still on our screens right after this.
Nice. Critical kill right there.
St. Edwards, ICC, locked into the Search and Destroy. You can find all that action on twitch.tv/CollegeCOD Bravo. But here on the mainstream, the biggest focus and a lot of anticipations on the year, Bay State, Northwood. What would it look like? I don't think many people had, well, 2-0 on the bingo card to start, but most importantly, the second map, the Desert Siege Search, largely just the Phantom show, and that really turned it into a one-sided affair. But I will say for Northwood, a bit disappointed that we didn't see more offensive adaptations to kind of elude or just simply avoid Phantoms outside towards B. We never really saw any really good looks towards the A side in my mind.
Yeah, it just felt like it was chalked. I mean, the amount of times that we saw Phantoms just take 1v odd situations out by the dunes, not to sell it anywhere short, it very much so could have been a 6-3 scoreline. If Silly doesn't 1v3 clutch finding 2 with the wrap pistol and then being able to isolate that last player. I believe that was like round 3, maybe 4, but even more so than that, frustration surely setting in there for the Timberwolves out of Northwood, considering the simple fact, again, just no adaptations. We expect better coming out from players when you're thinking about Fame and Radial. You brought it up before we ended up heading towards the break from even recencies past when they were playing on Ottawa last season, and especially with Bink and Infinite, a lot of Search and Destroy strength behind them. Now they're staring down the barrel of a 3-0 or the potential for a reverse sweep.
Tall prospects here, that much is for sure. But a Kavu Control, a map that, look, with the tick progression, I won't say that fortune favors the bold when it comes to selecting this map, but knowledge in awareness, rather, I should say, maybe more aptly, around where your opportunities lie has to be extremely high. Especially considering the nature of what we've seen from both of these two teams in the hardpoint, which was a lot of rogue routes. So I would have to say here, from both sides of the control, whether you're playing offensively or defensively, you have to be aware of your opponents trying to sneak around the back of you and taking away map positioning. So let's see what Bay State has in mind for their opening offense. 2-2 split. Looking to get Silly on towards the boat. Good opening nades. Goodness, I don't know how Silly's still alive. He just ate about 3 different days. He even turns that into an elimination. Goodness me. First 2 kills, good for the Bulldogs. Phantom seems to think he's got to play over towards B, but misses out on Fame, who keeps that play safe. And now it's on to Northwood to try to find a way to reset up to get a break onto this A zone.
Yeah, it almost felt like that nade was filled with adrenaline for Silly. He just continues to hit through LSC. Now he's got top cage control and was catching players by surprise, all happening off screen. Will finally be cut down, but look at the A-zone presence coming out from Bay State Esports early on. They're already going to get the second tick of progress. Undeniable, it is a 3v8 start. Bay State have all of the map to play with.
Oh, yeah. And you have to give this away and set up towards Ring right now if you're Northwood. And it looks like Infinite will actually kind of sneak over, see if anyone's up top waiting for him. No one's here, so this is a good position to hold on to. Even creating a little bit more visibility as he breaks down some boards. But Bay State not really super interested in ring control. They're actually looking to kind of hit these cuts. And, well, the problem about this is you're in some very difficult long-range gunfights, and all of them favor Northwood. Even though there's a lot of time still on the clock, good defensive positioning here for the Wolves.
And you would almost feel like Northwood, after losing the A zone and all those lives to boot at the early goings of things, that it is required for them to find a lot more map positioning and spawn kills as well. It was a good job from Infinite just to be able to keep things at bay for a little while longer. And I love the pickup that's coming through from Fame. 5-1 on a 3 currently, just trying to keep more of the Bulldog players at bay before they can even think about getting ring control.
Yeah, really good defensive setup here for Northwood. And if you're Bay State, you've got ship control here. But if you continue to flood in towards green without paying attention to your flank, you can get spawn trapped in the blink of an eye. And Radio is actually tagged up. He will read that this is the imminent threat. So he plays very passively back towards the B zone, trusting that his defenders over towards ring will be able to help him if needed. And it's just dead calm across the map right now. No one wanted to make the first move on the next steps.
They're also reading that there's obviously this play happening from the back. The double challenge coming out from both Rex and Silly, and they will take down Radial. But you also have to keep in mind that the ring control is still heavily in favor for Northwood. But the issue is that the play from the back is coming up so successful.
Yeah, and Bink has to kind of watch 2 things at once here. Has to trust that his teammates will pick up this player onto the B zone. And yeah, they do. Very well done by Bink. 3 in a row, repositions. Fame coming to take his place up top. Pistol in hand to make it happen, but Phantoms turns him aside. Bink's still alive, though, in the back, and now it's Radial to come through. And that will be a really good transition, even though there are trades. Bay State never fully got recontrolled, not just of their spawn, but more importantly of ring. Now we're down to 20 seconds. Last chance saloon here for the Bulldogs.
They're not necessarily in a position to try to fly at this either, because you still have Radial on top ring, who will find 2. Fame will clean up Rex on the beachfront. 10 seconds. It takes a solid 15, if not 20, to rotate all the way from the backside of the radar station towards that B zone. Nobody from Bay State will be able to get here. Radial's going to go in towards the next round on a 6 spree. Keep in mind, you, one more elimination away from getting that glide bomb could absolutely pay dividends to win an offensive round, if not keep it in your back pocket for the 5th and final. But a nice little bounce back coming through for Northwood off of that early get-go from Bay State to be able to take that A zone early.
Yep. All right. So now we jump on board with Radial, looking to see if he can find this glide bomb. And does this change maybe how you want to set up this initial break attempt? Because you want to kind of just bait and switch for him, but it's not really going to influence too much. Radial's going to take a safe route by going down low. He's just going to see if someone tries to hit this flank. Northwood's looking to set up a 3-man hit largely through the beach to get to B, rather, I should say. And that's going to be hopefully funneling people to Radial's direction for the 7th kill, but it doesn't work out. He doesn't find the kill. And Infinite, although he controls topside ring, he's got a flank to worry about, and he needs to make sure his teammates can get out of spawn if they're ever going to help Bink control this B point. And that opening a little jumperoo peek, and it may be good enough to get this first tick, and yeah, so it will be.
And Bink looking like a kangaroo inside of that lander. Is they going to be able to at least lock down that kill? Nice nades coming through, though, from Bay State to be able to at least clear away the B zone. But you saw a presence, mind you, for the Timberwolves over here on the beachfront. Rex has to deal with Radial inside of the lander. Will be able to do just that. But has many more players just flooding in towards their face.
Wow.
Second tick of progress already around the corner.
Yeah, and this is just mid-cuts being watched for the large part, so everyone can just kind of focus on the front. 3rd tick on the way in. Contest happens at the very last second, but the kill does not come through, and that will allow the B zone to be locked in first. Problematic now for Bay State. having to worry about these players off the exit, and you still need to work for positioning around ship. It's still not controlled by any stretch of the imagination. Bink up top's going to find a free kill onto Druxy, and he can just hold this. He doesn't have to do anything besides just make sure nobody takes this high ground, and his teammates will safely be able to get back over to help him. Oh, boy.
Essentially turn into an AA gun, and he absolutely is beaming. 10 and 5, double positive for them. This is buying so much space for the rest of Northwood to not only get ring control, but also get a player inside of the A zone.
So the clock once again stops. First tick of progress is going to get locked. Bay State need to find a way to break. And they are just not finding any room at all to work with here. No gunfights really being won in the important places. Druxy has to come forward. Pistol in hand and still is able to take care of Radial, but the trade from Fame immediate. Next player up is Phantoms, and that will be good enough to at least maintain some semblance of contest here around the A zone, but these are just brief numbers for the side of Bay State, and as they continue to slide on in and deny some progress, they're all getting picked apart. Second tick in, stack this, you'll find yourself the third. The only player that can contest this is Phantoms, and as he falls, it's going to be an offensive round for Northwood as they go up 2-0 in the control.
What a fantastic play and series of events, really, that happens for Northwood. They make the gut check call. They send 3 players up towards ring. And keep in mind, the initial play for that was all obviously to get Radial streaks to funnel a player to try to commit towards the flank over by the cliff path. Radial doesn't find it, and even more so than that, there was one player for Bay State that actually found 2 kills as the beachfront push was happening against Northwood, but Bay State, they make the wrong call. They honestly thought that Northwood was going to commit off the respawn to go back over towards A, but the lone player for Northwood recommits to work their way back over towards B. The respawns are right behind them. They get the more difficult zone out of the 2. From there on out, it was just map positioning superiority. Bay State looking to do the same thing on their offense.
Good opening kills. Bink just watching people come into his line of sight. Weakens up Phantoms enough to allow Radial to kill. So good numbers, good control so far for Northwood defensively. Where are Bay State even trying to go at this point in time? You've got nobody watching over the long flank, so Infinite can freely make this move whenever he so needs to. And with Fame pushed forward, help from beyond, I mean, this is the definition of containment. Bay State has absolutely zero ground to work with.
Oh man, and Infinite's found some timing in the back. Even finding one would be massive. That's going to dwindle down the numbers and gets the rest of the information that you have more lingering players for Bay State up towards top ring. I mean, there's no way that they're going over towards the LST ship. Bink is up there. They are actually the turret. They'll lose their life, but still, containment has continued to ensue. With 25 seconds remaining, Bay State have to make a play.
Yeah. Have to find success on probably the B zone at this point. Kind of a war on 2 fronts here. As Rex will get in, that will put a pause to the game clock. Lucky to be alive, Radial. You know he wants to chow that, and why not? Gets him down to essentially a single bullet. No predictive shots there to deny him that opportunity. And the Bay State Bulldogs are getting battered on this Gavudu control. May not even get a single tick of progress here to finish off their second offense, even on the A zone. Gunfight lost by Silly, runs out of ammunition, and that'll do it. Northwood 3-0 the control, keep their hopes alive in the series.
Wow. I mean, if it was just as a definitive offense, after losing that A zone as quick as they did on their opening defense, Allen, they have just turned that around, found that 6th gear, and then just hit the pedal to the metal all the way through the center of the core of the earth. You really feel like it. I mean, being 17 and 8 was almost as undeniable on top LST as we had Phantoms over by the B dunes on the Desert Sea. Search and Destroy was almost, he was contested continuously, sure, but the amount of kills that Bink was finding just shutting down players and trying to rotate back over towards top ring, trying to get themselves down from the cliff path, was always a sheer benefactor to the reason why Northwood had so many numbers on their defensive side. And even when that A zone was fallen by the wayside in their opening defense, did just as good as a job when they were finessing their life over top ring. The trust was there for Northwood to be able to deal with the pinch as well. The last good look that we really had for Bay State to try to get that B zone in their favor, it just simply was not meant to be, as Northwood find themselves that second string of life here in the control.
Wow. And it was a convincing string of life as well. I mean, you want to talk about convincing search and destroy, immediately counteracted by Northwood here in the control. And it's even all across the board largely. I mean, a hell of a game from Fame, 17 and 11, but Radial, the amount of interactions he was able to find, no one even comes close. Really, 19 and 14, 2,200 damage. I guess Phantoms is technically up there as well, but honestly speaking, I mean, just look at the amount of offensive kills that came through on one offense, mind you, for Northwood, bro. Like, that's unreal. Those numbers aren't right, but still.
Sorry, yeah, I never trust the right side of the scoreboard.
They have to be assists as well. They have to be. It has to be kills and assists.
I have stopped questioning it ever since week 1 of Vanguard, but the one thing that absolutely does ring on true is at least like the discrepancy of kills. The non-traded kills are absolutely there. Like you have 16 both for Bink and Radial, who were constantly just playing their life to the highest extent. I mean, yeah, you also had Radial go on that massive 6 spree back-to-back, 2 different 5 sprees for Bink and Fame. The one thing that I will say is how proactive Northwood were constantly playing on their defense, understanding and reading of the giant room of the Solomon Isles there on Gavutu, just knowing that if we found that 1 or 2 kills through the middle of the map, we have the presence to push in for a couple of spawn kills, and just constantly just making sure that Bay State did not have sufficient numbers, whether it was a 3v-odd situation or just 2 players working their way over towards ring. Yeah. That's not going to be good enough to work your way across the beachfront.
Take a look at the maps here, though, again, just to see where this series will extend to. It had to be a reverse sweep by way of a Tuscan hardpoint and a Berlin search and destroy for Northwood. Otherwise, of course, number 1 will stay number 1. And man, that Berlin hardpoint, if you missed it, first of all, where the heck were you? But if you did miss it, really the difference maker was Druxy between 5 and 1 going into the 3rd set of rotations. If Druxy doesn't pop for the double that he gets to clean up the 5th hardpoint and then turn around for another 2 to hold off the pinch to allow his teammates a free rotation to 1, that game may be opposite. So we'll see what the difference makers will be here for map number 4. Oh boy. You just feel like something crazy is going to happen this map. It's just in the air.
I'm thinking that I got Chris Radial in the lobby on a Tuscan hardpoint, man. I'm sure that when I say that one phrase, you're thinking exactly what I'm thinking, and that is Season 2 of the Elite, where Radial drops almost like 55 kills. I forget who that was up against, but it's nasty. He knows his timings on this map. It will be Bay State starting off with the favorite side, and one's actually showing all of those strengths within the kill feed. A 1-for-2 start. Radial will find a stun, but Bay State will find all the kills necessary to at least get themselves in for the time.
Well, it's still being pretty heavily contested. It's a pretty solid look, honestly speaking, from the side of Northwood. Looking to get some mid-map control here. The only contestant would be Phantoms. He gets stunned to death. Druxy also will kind of meet a similar fate here, just by a different medium of how he meets his opponents. And, well, that will be enough to get, once again, Bay State off the point for a time. Silly stepping forward, trying to deal with any contestants that he may find himself against. The pistol will get the job done. 5 in a row for Silly, by the way. Pistol reloads, but is not able to finish off for kill number 6. Druxy now looking to take his place, quite literally, as he steps foot on towards the monument, but does also meet the same result as he gets taken down at Northwood for a bit of scrap time as they start streaking over through church.
Yeah, but Bay State did a great job at just finessing what lives that they had over by P1, while the rest of the players were locking down the backside of the spawns, but doesn't necessarily it is secured by any stretch of the imagination, though Silly picks it up on the backside of church, finds 2, will be cut down, but Radial just says, I don't care, I'm going to continue to hit it, has Bink's support, and there's Chris Radial's number 4 kill in a row as a very swift and quick break comes through for Northwood.
Yeah, really important break as well, as you're also turning this into some high ground control, not just for Infinite, but Radial in front of him. Really good awareness here from Chris. Turns, and how about it? Infinite picks up the pieces. So now Radial has the ability to go rogue if he wants to. Shots, though, from the high ground on the Phantoms and Rex will actually allow us 2-man break for the Bulldogs. Maybe getting a bit over-aggressive there for a moment with the Timberwolves, but off the respawn, they deal with those contestants no problem, and now Radial can go right back on his way to try to find kill number 7 for a glide bomb.
Devious ways, Aiden 2. But Silence has completely gone away, but does have a little bit of help over here. That's going to be Bink going through the window first. Nobody whatsoever. Everybody has issues with his windows for sure. Let's see if the bait and switch can come through. Bink goes in, and Radial actually ends up finding Phantoms before they fall. So Glide Bomb has actually been accrued on the back pocket for Northwood while the rest of the hit is coming through from the rooftops.
Off the reload. Silly trying to YY. No, denied in tiles. And okay, once again, you thought there was going to be maybe more of a hotly contested battle around the back, but Northwood cleaned things up very easily. And all of a sudden you got Fame on 4. Radial pretty free look as he goes to a triple, but it's a team nade that eventually denies him any further streak potential. Regardless of that, though, Timberwolves retake the lead once again for the first time, really largely, actually, I should say, as Rex tries to contest and finesse this back 13 seconds. Not able to do too much with it. So First major lead we've seen so far for Northwood. And how about Bink through the doorways? Goodness me. Silly does get a trade at range, but regardless of that, there has been some pretty heavy threats now being established through the second hard point towards the back here if you're Northwood.
It's a nice setup, though. The issue is that Phantoms does have an MP40. Would love to have an Automaton to be able to sit on that back truck, so they have to hit it to be able to deal with Infinite in the back. The issue is that you had still had players lingering top radio. Be right there to at least collect on that back column hill, and with all those with all these hills that also came through for Northwood, all of Bay State were set up inside a church. That's going to force out the field spawns, but the way they're set up inside a church, they are absolutely thriving within the chaos. A clean kill feed comes through as Bay State continue to tack on more points.
A really solid hold attempt here, reading the play down to the south side of the map, and then also making sure you're getting good awareness on where the next set of spawns would be. These little routes that Rex keeps hitting is, I think, one of the things that you look for a difference maker between a really good SMG and a great SMG. Just you're always running circles, even on certain isolated parts of the hard point that you control. And how about Phantoms as well? Now with an SMG in hand as well, will make a play forward to get into the fifth hill. 40-point differential now starting to be accrued as Bay State take their first significant lead since the opening hill. Rex on 4 looking for streaks and wants to wait for nades, and as he does, he comes in to find kill number 5, but that's the problem. There's always nades. There's never a moment when there's not nades, and Bink will turn his nade into a double behind it, Infinite to follow up, and immediately a counter break for Northwood.
Might as well rename P5 Command Center into the Michael Bay film of all hardpoints, truly, with the amount of explosions that happen inside of that Command Center. The break will be in. The hit's going to be coming through. Infinite's playing a tight corner. Does find one. Does find a second as well on the Silly. And that's going to dwindle down the numbers. But the issue is that the players for Northwood inside of Command Center itself cannot stay alive. Phantoms will get the last laugh inside of the hardpoint. All of that is happening. Silly's trying to at least get mid-map control. Only find one before they're cut down. Northwood chalk the back end of that scrap time, heading in towards the second set of hills. Bay State have a very big lead going in.
Got to put something together here in these next 3 hills if you're Northwood. Otherwise, this game could just get out of hand. Good opening eliminations. Maybe it can be done right here in the monument. Silly waiting, cooks up a nade, hoping for something to connect here. And it does! It does! It finds Silly! Or pardon me, it finds Infinite, does Silly! And now on 2 in a row, wants to move forward, but doesn't expect Radio in the corner, but it's fine. There are plenty of teammates to pick it up. And now about the teammate that finds the kill is the one to put himself on a killing spree. Phantoms on 5, and Silly off spawn can now control mid-map. Glide Bomb's going to get called here. And really, you just have to hope that your player on 5 can stay alive, but it's not going to happen. Kills come out.
Kills will come through, and now you're just hoping for Northwood that they can clean up the following ones, and they will find them. But most importantly than that, they're battling for the scrap time. Those are 25, 30 seconds that you don't want Bay State to get too comfortable on. But the issue is going forward, the returning gunfights are coming in the favor of Bay State. Most importantly, Phantoms is able to find one over by the column. Off screen, they find a second one. They're threatening the rotation. They don't care about the scrap time going forward now, and they're trying to set themselves up to break into too early.
Yeah, this could be the case. Shadow has been seen. But Radio still sneaks through. Phantom's just valuing his life, backs away, changes up the angle, waits for help from beyond. And what a prediction that is from Phantom's, goodness me. 165, 130, but Northwood on the outside looking in. Druxy gets a look at Fame. That'll be enough for him to come forward to find the elimination. And then shots over the middle. Radio gives away his spot, can do nothing more than just the overnade and the initial elimination. Druxy holding on to the hill. Now he's on 5 once again. Another slow start for him, but what important string he's been able to put together. Northwood still looking to threaten this back 25 seconds from the front. But Phantoms is here to meet it, and oh boy, things starting to get out of hand quickly here, Proper.
Yeah, it absolutely is. They can threaten to be over the 200-point margin if they hold on to the rest of the scrap time. They're going to have to be gifted to it as well. Northwood are forced to chalk this. They have to try to get middle of the map positioning while also trying to influence the rotation. Infinite's the only player on the backside of Wine. You can see the spawns that are starting to come through. Both Bink and Fame spawned over by Grass. And also you have Druxy that is shutting down any sort of rotational play that could be coming through. Fame will finally chase them down. And we'll have Northwood in for the initial time, but this is leader's advantage within a nutshell. Yep. Just a handful of more breaks to come through for the Bulldogs to put it away in 4.
Have to get at least 40 here if you're Northwood, and you have to win the rotation. That is now a requirement. What was initially a comment of it would be nice to put together a good stretch between the first 3 hills now turns into a mandatory 3 into 4. Phantoms from the fire alley. Good pre-fire from Bink. Has so many more to deal with, though, but gets a good look at it. And how about the double coming out of Bink? Reinforcements will respawn, and a team nade will shut down the break attempt initially. Bay State now have to pause just a touch, looking to set up and hit multiple points at the exact same time, but Bink in the back corner still deals a significant amount of damage, leaving only one more member to find, and how about it? The kills come through, and the 40 seconds they need are the 40 seconds that they get.
Biggest issue through the first set of hard points, though, for Northwood going into 4 is, yeah, they were able to work their way from 3, but they really struggled to work their way in towards the back to be able to break the setup that Bay State were playing with inside of that church hard point. And again, these trades that are coming through on the backside of column are not going to be good enough to try to influence, but the spawns are in for Northwood on the ruin side of the map. And you also have Bink going rogue in towards the back. The stun is in, but still he doesn't care. Still goes 1 for 1 in the back.
Oh, but Northwood has completely bamboozled Bay State. They thought the hit was coming from the south side through the second hill. That was just a mere muse, though. Everything else was spawned up towards mid-map. They fully pinch, and now all of a sudden Northwood is in. Radial from the high ground, waiting to read where the next hit is going to come from. It's all up the middle. Radial gets a pretty good look at Phantoms, but is not good for the kill. Tim backs up, saves his life, waits for help, but this is all costly of some pretty significant time. Once again, same situation, needs the regen. Bink shuts it down, but there's no second to follow. Now it's Silly on the way in. Stun will connect, not able to get Fame for the first, and Fame will even find the second, and we've got ourselves about an even game as we start to rotate to 5.
And you got to start wrapping now if you are Bay State. You got to make sure that nobody from Northwood are able to work their way up through the patio side, especially knowing that Rex just died just down underneath that patio. Phantom's the only player that's over here more or less. Finally gets some help thanks to Druxy inside the hard point. A team kill comes through, but the numbers are in favor of the Timberwolves.
Trying to work this from the bottom. Phantoms is not looking at this whatsoever. Bink gets a free first. Help from Radial. Break is going to be successful. It's a 4-man feed. And Fame is in the middle of the map trying to read where the spawns are, and he's read them like a 3rd grader's book. And he reads at a 5th grade level. A double comes through for him. 220 to 234. Northwood could very well just win the game right here if they hold perfectly, maybe.
Now, there's going to be one more second that they need. But even if they are able to lock down these last 20 seconds, Alan, they just need one more second going in towards P1. And they're locking down all these isolated gunfights. The trades down by Well will be successful. Silly needs to go big. Can only find one more. The window is going to pay dividends for a last-ditch kill that comes all the way through. Rex is going to try to hit it one more time. There's not enough time to try to break it here. And now the numbers are a little bit dwindled for Bay State on the rotation, but luckily enough, you have 2 players here that find the rotational gunfights.
Bink's pinched though, even though it was red, still finds 6x. Drusty is trying to find him. He can't find Bink. 1v1, a crucial one. And Bay State are able to stop for a second, but no! The hit from the front you thought was going to go 50-50 and someone would stay alive, but not the case. Northwood slide their way on. Find the final 2 kills needed, and take an 8-point win after what was about an 80-point comeback in the first place to get us to a map 5.
It was about a 75-80 point comeback, Alan. They make it happen just where you thought that Bay State were undeniable through a first set of hard points, specifically what they look like not only on the breaks, but the hold that they saw on 4, and then the return that they had on P5. Built such a substantial lead going in towards the second set that I was ready to write off Northwood. You even said they have to make something magical happen within the early goings of the second set of hard points, and they make it happen with all the gunfights that they were able to find going on the backside of the 3. They were also able to rectify the biggest issue of it all, and that was the P4 hard point in the first set. Going back in to make sure that they had the flood in through the north side of the church. They break on in, they set all of Bay State's setup ablaze, and they get themselves set up in there with numbers and made sure that all of them were taking isolated gunfights, which Bay State were able to walk, or which Northwood, excuse me, were able to walk away with more often than not at the tail end of that hard point.
Wow.
Woo!
These 2 teams are so evenly matched, man. It really is unbelievable to see. Radio goes 34-21. Unbelievable. And how about Big 28-24, but 13 assists while doing it.
Yeah.
Also a pretty hefty tally there. And here's the thing, if you want to talk about, maybe some subtle differences, one of the things that I was kind of commenting on was objective kill pressure for Bay State and the Berlin. They get outgunned in the objective this time around. And on top of that, Radial, who was playing Route Man on Berlin with 20 seconds of hardpoint, now tallies 1 minute and 12 seconds. So there may be some small difference makers in those 2 categories in particular of why this game ended up the way that it did. But I think the biggest thing outside of the 8-point gap that everyone's going to focus on is just how the comeback started to build. It was one of those things between the first 3 hills. You're just hoping you can get, a majority of 2 of those 3. But once you lose the first 2 hills, you have to turn 3 into 4. And I do have to say that little 2-2 split where 2 players came through the backside of P2 to the south side of the map for Northwood pulled all the attention to Bay State towards those bottom side doors. And the pinch that comes from the back and the one from topside Church Fields was never really rivaled by Bay State's setup, which was very much so a bunker in the hill.
Yeah, absolutely the case. I mean, again, I called it. Like, Tuscan Hardpoint, it is just Radial's world, and we are living in it, man. Like, the way that he just plays throughout the entirety of that map, just not afraid. SMG, we saw the Volk at certain points in time, even picking up ARs off the ground, and it was just finding gunfights left, right, and center. Not afraid to get his hands dirty. At the same time, it was just causing a little bit of a ruckus to every single setup that Bay State was mostly looking for. The one big harp that I have for Bay State going forward is that Druxy cannot allow to have such a slow start towards a hard point. Could have been a much bigger lead that they would have potentially been able to have, if not closing it out in 4 ahead of this Berlin Search and Destroy. All cards are off the table. You have the potential for a reverse sweep here for Northwood Building.
We'll see. The Search and Destroy and Desert Siege was not really anything you want to look back on fondly if you're Northwood. But we'll send things to a quick break. Map 5, number 1, number 2, still on our screens when we come back. Map number 5, the Bay State Bulldogs getting tested and have to stop a reverse sweep from the Northwood Timberwolves. Oh man, so many individual storylines on both sides, but the thing that's going to matter at the end is which team has been able to figure it out fastest, because as we had mentioned at moments throughout this broadcast so far for this matchup, neither of these 2 teams are doing the same thing that Ottawa had done last year, which is play the Challenger circuit with your CCL team. So how much work have you been able to get, and how deep does the playbook actually go as we start to consider the Berlin Surge for 5?
I guess it more or less has another question as well, is how frustrated are you going to be if you are Northwood, if you continuously lose these long-range gunfights to Phantoms, who will more than likely be playing it either across the middle of the map or over by that B lane. Remember, one of the biggest benefactors to Bay State's success in that 6-2 Search and Destroy on Desert Siege was because you had continuous solo chows coming out from Northwood across that B lane outside by the dunes. Those simple adaptations need to come through from Northwood if they want to complete the reverse sweep for me, Alan.
All right. We'll see what we get. And I guess there's at least some benefit here of being on Berlin compared to Desert Siege. You're not forced into long-range gunfights if you don't want them. There's plenty of ground to work with without having to take long-range gunfights, and Northwood will avoid giving out really any information at all. Stuns will just break doors by the look of it. And that's, yeah, indeed the case. Just breaking doors, breaking windows. Next nade to come out will be sent over towards the B site. That stun may have connected onto Silly, but the thing about this is you don't necessarily know that Druxy is in the site. And as Silly gives up the position at the docks, first blood will be eluded, and North would have to work towards A.
And you still have Bink that's actually watching this as well, knowing that there's nobody that's inside of the concourse at the very least, but nobody is also pushed through. The issue going forward is that you also have Phantoms that is just playing an isolated corner just outside, and the doors are open. He'll see this happen.
Aha, the little play off the door. Phantom just says, no nonsense here. I'll just spam, but offers himself up to an angle that Radial was watching from the high ground through the middle of the map. And they're going to try to rewrap this to beat. Druxy's still holding the tight corner. A 1-for-1 exchange here is more than enough. And Druxy, he's going to get the information he needs. Throws a shoulder. That should call the defense to start rotating. Stun will not connect for Druxy as he tries to keep himself safe. And that actually, that little tactful retreat will allow Infinite a free plant. This post plant can actually get set up. But the quick retakes come through to the Bulldogs. They're trying to take this very swiftly indeed. Infinite up close is going to have a gunfight with Rex. Loses that one. Silly from inside the site with a pistol, but he gets caught swapping between weapons. And now it's just down to Rex. Bink up top will deny. And Northwood on the late rotate to B will get the successful attack.
Woo, man, that got sweaty there at the very end. They started with the potential to commit towards B. They didn't like what they saw. They rewrapped over towards A, said, nah, Phantoms found first blood over here. We're not taking these gunfights, not with the positioning that Phantoms has over there on the upper courtyard. So they just go all the way back over towards B, and you really felt like that if Silly was able to lock down that kill with the wrap pistol, maybe there was going to be a chance. But truly, with the post-plant setup, Bink, the proactive player as they are, was on the backside of trains and then put themselves in the power position to deny any post-plant or any few situations that were going to be coming through. An A committal be coming through from Bay State on their opening offense.
Oh, look at this. Radial's going to look to flank quickly around the backside of this play towards A. Guns out the windows, not going to connect. Counter nades now from Fame. He's got a sub in hand, keep in mind, so he really can't do too much. But look at the long flank from Radio. He's already back to platform. And, oh, Druxy's read this. How do you handle this if you're Bay State? They're going to commit to the plant, knowing they've pushed back one of the members in the flank. But the problem is they don't expect a second. That's infinite, super deep. But there's Phantoms up top right behind him. And the kills are all coming through, at least for the moment, for Bay State on this post-plant defense. Difficult positions here as Infinite is really just stuck.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't be further up a creek without a paddle, knowing that you're sandwiched between two players. But Bink is right there to pick it up, and Infinite takes down Phantoms. 20 seconds remaining, and Bink has the read, at least on a 1 inside the small room.
Oh, it's a really good reach out from Rex, using the bomb site as cover, because that was a lot of damage that was tallied up. Infinite, not a lot of time to go, has to move quickly, and he's missed his mark. Oh, but nearly a 2v4, and what an unbelievable call for Bink to come quickly through the middle of the map to try to help out his teammate, because there was really no way Infinite was getting out of that position by himself.
No, absolutely not. An MP40, he was locked in between an AR and then also a player trying to come back through to make sure that Infinite could not commit towards that back train yard play. And yeah, fantastically called out for Bink's assistance through the middle of the map to at least find the first. It just was not expecting Infinite to be able to even get out with their life, considering that Phantoms had their dead to rights on the backside of that train yard. But evened up. One apiece, offense for offense. Mailroom control immediately here for the Timberwolves. You have Bink just lingering behind, making sure that nobody is coming through from the flank.
Shots over the middle of the map. Radial wants to isolate Phantoms, but yeah, very wisely backs up. There was help through fire. But how about this? Northwood still committing. Fame is going to try to come through, sneakily opens the door, and sees that no one's in fire. But that's quickly being corrected. Rex is now moving in, and oh, they're right next to one another. It's going to feel so bad for Fame when he watches that one back. And what was initially going to be, I'll play in fire, you guys play for A, now all of a sudden needs Northwood to find a trade somewhere, and Bay State has so much control of the map.
And again, Phantoms is playing in this position, not through the upper courtyard. It's just playing in a position where they get to deny the bomb plant from coming through, but throws a shoulder inside of the office. Bink throws it out from the staircase. That'll be called for the bomb plant to come down. 3v3 for the retake.
Rado gets a read that still has come through. But does anyone know that Druxy is over towards Secret? Does not look that way. No, Bink's not watching this. Druxy will toss a stun out and still win the first gunfight, gets away with his life. Infinite to the middle of the map, finally gets the trade. 20 seconds on the clock, it's all down to Infinite now with an MP40. He knows he needs to check this bomb, probably sooner rather than later. And as he does, he finds Silly, but can't finish off the kill. And Rex is there to punish. Plenty of time for a defuse. Northwood, so close, but can't quite lock down the site.
Yeah, a little bit of a fumble when it comes down to a post-plant situation, but you had one player for Northwood that immediately went back through the train yard or hallway, rather, that leads over towards the mailroom, and because of that, there was no fourth player, obviously, that could have been watching for the potential of that secret door push. It comes through. Druxy makes the big play happen of just finding that one kill, the overall collapse soon to follow, being able to find more than just a little bit of lick of damage. Got Rex going into this round on a 3 from that round specifically. Bay State are able to find themselves yet another defensive round. Another A-bomb committal. You got Phantoms that's playing over by the warehouse. Should have been able to see at least one player cross, but this is a very passive defensive setup the Northwood are playing here. Just playing off of any bit of information, but 3 players are setting themselves up to push through day.
Yeah, this is nades over the top to give some space. Druxy's just going to hard commit to the plant. Retake now required for the side of Northwood. And the defenders at B, I just don't think there's an opportunity to play for a long flank. Maybe an opportunity to re-clear out mail, but that's a dangerous prospect. And they're going to just ignore it for now. Look to retake this largely from the front. And Bay State's post plant is so confident with not just Silly's position, but Phantoms is also deeper, kind of layering with this clutch position. So you got to go now if you're Northwood. Not a lot of nades, I believe, to get the full retake into play. So it has to be won by the gunfights, and it doesn't look all that good for him. Pistol in hand, nothing there. Last player left was behind the play and nowhere to go as Bay State cleanly to take the plant and also defend it, no problem.
Yeah, because of the way that you ended up having Bay State commit towards his offense, Alan, you had the 2 players that are over by the stairs. They tossed nades over top of the train roofing, yes, but there was a late I guess, conversation that was coming through of where the hit was initially coming from for those players that were still lingering over by B, because the play very much so could have been over there. But from that hit alone, when they knew that the numbers were committing over towards A, they had to try to quite literally sprint from B all the way to the backside of the train yard, which was also being watched. Keep in mind you that they had to win the gunfights. They simply could not do it. At Northwood, down by 2 rounds. Beams coming out from Phantoms once again. Rips the head off of Fame. 3v4 for the offense.
Phantoms could just hold. Waiting to play for sound cues. You've got Rex watching the middle of the map through fire. Druxy once again just in his corner over towards B. And this whole defense is just relying that someone's going to come through this backside staircase or make sound as they try to get over towards A itself. Nade's on the way in, but there's nobody here. Radial, as he kind of breaks open some of the planking, that's going to allow Silly a chance to know that there's going to be a threat. Sees Infinite for the first. Also hearing these planks be destroyed. He knows that Radial's nearby, gets a look at him. But Radial stays alive, maybe a little bit longer than anticipated. May not make much of a difference in the long run, though. Bink by himself has to go 1v3 at the pistol. Takes the first out. Gets a bit of a reset. Has the MP40 with a handful of shots left. Hold on. Maybe there's an opportunity. Comes around the corner, but doesn't quite see the player tucked in next to the window. Bay State go a couple in a row and once again start to run away with this search up now 4-1.
It's just so much veteran play coming through, just so methodical when you're thinking about what Bay State are doing defensively. I mean, Phantoms just continuously playing these positions in the upper courtyard, just denying any sort of push that can come through from the A bomb. And when they're coming off the rip, they're running through the doors and making sure that they're open in their favor, so that way they can end up seeing these players through that window or through the glass rather, or even on the top side of the staircase. Fighting that first blood, sure, but all the information trade, even though they had a numbers advantage, Bay State don't continue to get aggressive. They just continue to play their numbers advantage defensively, now with a 3-round lead.
You need not just this round, but probably the one after if you're Northwood right here. Need to start making this Bay State team consider adjustments on both sides of the bomb. As they delay their nades over towards B, they do get connections with this. Druxy quickly on the way in. Infinite is the one on the opposite side of the shutters. But the bomb will still be allowed to get planted, and Silly's here to help. Oh, boy. Infinite may have missed his timing. And now the retake is largely going to rely on Radial from the back as he tries to hit this long flank.
It's going to take a lot of time, though, and even while it's all going down, the players are all falling over by the docks, and the read should be here. We're missing one player. The B street is completely secure. Surely they know that Radial's going to be coming from the back. They find one, but to be able to find 3 more kills plus the defuse is going to take a whole lot more than 16 seconds. In Bay State, they pull off the B bomb plant, and they get themselves set up wonderfully. Don't even lose a single gunfight until Radial catches one by surprise here in the docks building.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Search and destroy woes really starting to creep into the mix here. 5 in a row? Man. The problem about this at the moment is that we just have not seen really too much. Consistency, impact. I mean, what, it was a 1v3 of one of their 2 rounds in Desert Siege that they pulled.
Yeah.
It's just not good news here. Rex even getting first blood over the middle of the map. This now makes this mailroom position completely contained as Phantoms goes outside to make sure there are no exits. And oh boy, not looking good here for the Timberwolves.
That's the ARs, man. They're just playing such good lockdown defense and even offense as well, and they're isolating plays as well. That'll be the last kill on Infinite. Leaves Bink left alive in a 1v-odd situation. Bay State, undeniable on the search and destroy. They do it even cleaner than what they showed on Desert Siege by a 1 more round deficit. Good lord, this team is nasty.
Wow. It's just... I'm having a hard time putting words together here. It's the search and destroy was, you know, for Ottawa last year, and again, I hate that I keep looking back to last year, but I think a lot of people are going to be thinking that.
Just have to.
The Ottawa team last year was just outgunning people in hard points, largely. There really wasn't a need for them to develop too much. But one of the biggest strengths that came out of that Ottawa team was how untouchable they were in the search and destroy. Because they were actively working on those things, hardcore for what they were doing in Challengers. Now that it's not there, I just feel like we're not really getting a resounding semblance of any kind of 4-man setups for the side of Northwood. And kind of as you had mentioned, you know, not to sit there and say that Bay State has that and Northwood doesn't. It's just the ARs just kept getting fed free lanes and free information to allow their team a chance to rotate. I mean, so many of those defenses, Druxy was just pinned up into B. Like,
yeah,
there is literally nothing analytical you could say about that. You can't break that down other than saying he just gets into B and he never really gets contested because his ARs are giving him so much value, so much information before the hit ever comes in. So, tough scenes, but I would say at least Northwood, you know what you need to work on going forward, because the entirety of the series was really close outside of the two S&Ds.
Yeah, and again, you know, the stats will paint the picture of what you legitimately just said, Alan. Silly 7-4, 5-2 for Druxy, 9-4 for Dylan Rex, and Phantoms goes 5-4. It was the ARs, again, for Bay State, much like on Desert Siege, that were the benefactors of Bay State's success here on the Berlin Search and Destroy. Again, there's not too much depth of analytics that I can go into aside from the simple fact that Northwood just don't seem prepared. And not to say, again, that Bay State were more prepared than Northwood. It's just a simple fact that the ARs for Bay State are just playing the most vanilla positionings on the map of Berlin Search and Destroy and are just catching Northwood getting aggressive with their SMGs, trying to completely outgun their opponents, but it's not easy to do. You got to see it right here in this Berlin Search and Destroy. You try to aggressively funnel your way in towards one of these bomb sites, if not across the B lane, there is going to be an AR, if not a sniper rifle, watching that position on a Berlin Search. And if it's not contested, at least not looked at to be able to then win off the information trade alone, you're going to get blooded, you're going to lose in numbers, and then the clock is going to continue to dwindle on down. Bay State were not more prepared than Northwood. I got to reiterate that yet again. They just played cleaner Search and Destroy than Northwood, and you've got to go back to the drawing board for Northwood for Search and Destroy as a whole if you want to be CCL 2022's champion.
That much is for sure. And maybe there is something to be said here for Bay State. Like, okay, as strong as you are in the Search and Destroy, what the heck happened in the Control? You know, well, let's just not make this a one-sided conversation. There are things on both sides of the coin here, but yeah, it's definitely tough going 12-3 in the Search and Destroy between both of the sets that you played. So, man, it took us a long time to get to this point to see number 1 versus number 2. I think these two teams were the most highly anticipated getting into this season. Wouldn't you know it, it's week 10 before we have a chance to watch them play up against each other. Maybe it's just a small teaser of what's to come for the playoffs across not just these two, but multiple teams beyond. But boy, does that leave, I think, some pretty open eyes for both teams' perspective, saying, well, we really got to clean this up if we're going to have a chance to take home the lion's share of that $25,000 at the end of the year.
Yeah, oh, absolutely the case. I mean, there has to be work that needs to be done, whether it's studying VOD as a 4-player squad, or at least maybe taking an S&D chal or two for this Northwood team. The trust has to be there, and at least have. It doesn't even have to be a backpack. It doesn't have to be a JanSport, Alan. It just simply has to be like a pocketbook of tricks that they have to be able to pull out, as far as even like the most, I guess, like vanilla-based strategies that we saw, rather than just trying to run at one bomb site or another.
Yeah, that's fair. Man, what a week worth of Call of Duty we've had this week. Starting obviously with the Minnesota Open challengers, these players in particular are getting a chance to play on LAN again. Then we go right into some heated top-tier matches in the CCL, with still one more week to play. Next week, week 11, final one of the regular season. Top cut teams have at least guaranteed an extension of the season, whether that be an instant bid into playoffs or a spot at the LCQ, which of course schedule-wise will be the next thing up. Of course, there's also the Academy League. That playoffs will be happening in between the LCQ and the regular main league playoffs that is later to come in this month of April. So, a lot more college COD to come, but for week number 10, we have to say farewell and sign off. Mondays and Tuesdays, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, start of the show for our final week, and of course, that schedule, I'm sure, be modified in a way as we start to look towards the LCQ. So make sure you follow along at College COD on Twitter, and if you're not already a part of the Discord, jump on in. Exclamation point Discord will get you there. And if you're one of those players, make sure you're staying in tune with both of those things to figure out what's going to be happening with the postseason when we eventually get there. Still one more week to play, though, as mentioned. So until that point next week for week 11, we say so long. Until that point, make sure you keep holding it down. Later. Bye-bye.